The wind howled like a banshee, tearing at the weathered shutters of the old cabin. Snow piled high against the windows, obscuring the already dim light. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of wood smoke and fear. I huddled closer to the crackling fire, my breath misting in the frigid air. Across from me sat Silas, his face illuminated by the flickering flames, a chilling smile playing on his lips. "You think you've seen winter, boy," he rasped, his voice rough like sandpaper. "You think you know cold." I shivered, pulling my coat tighter around me. The blizzard outside raged, a relentless assault against the cabin. "It's plenty cold enough for me, Silas," I muttered, trying to sound unconcerned. Silas chuckled, a dry, rattling sound that echoed through the small cabin. "This is nothing," he said, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling intensity. "This is just a taste. Wait till you see what true winter can bring." I dismissed his words as the ramblings of an old man, weathered by years of solitude in this remote corner of the world. Silas, with his leathery skin and eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of 1,000 winters, always had a knack for unsettling stories. "You see," he continued, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "there are things out there in the blizzard, things that most folks don't even know exist." I tried to laugh it off, but the words hung in the air, heavy and ominous. Silas, with his years spent battling the unforgiving wilderness, knew its secrets, the whispers of the wind, the sighs of the snow. He spoke of ancient legends, of creatures that lurked in the blinding snow, creatures born of the cold, of the darkness. I tried to dismiss his words as folklore, but the unease that had been creeping over me since we'd set out on this ill-fated expedition grew stronger. The blizzard raged outside, a relentless assault against the cabin, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were not alone, that something was watching us from the swirling snow. Silas, sensing my unease, leaned closer, his eyes gleaming with a strange light. "Tonight," he said, his voice dropping to a near whisper, "we'll go deeper, much deeper." I felt a shiver crawl down my spine. "Deeper?" I echoed, my voice barely a whisper. "Deeper into the blizzard?" Silas grinned, a chilling, predatory grin. "Yes," he said, his voice barely audible above the howling wind. "We'll hunt." The blizzard raged throughout the night, a relentless assault against the cabin. The wind howled like a banshee, tearing at the roof, threatening to tear the structure apart. Inside, we huddled together for warmth, the fire crackling menacingly, casting dancing shadows that played tricks on our already frayed nerves. The other members of our expedition, 2 young men named Jake and Liam, were restless. They had come to this remote wilderness seeking adventure, a taste of the unknown. Now, trapped in this isolated cabin, facing the wrath of the blizzard, their bravado had given way to fear. Jake, the youngest of us, kept glancing nervously at the window, his face pale and drawn. "We should never have come here," he muttered, his voice trembling. "We should have stayed in town." Liam, ever the skeptic, scoffed. "Don't be such a coward, Jake. It's just a blizzard. We'll ride it out and be on our way in the morning." But Liam's bravado was a thin veneer, masking the fear that gnawed at him from within. I could see it in his eyes, the same fear that was beginning to consume me. Silas, however, seemed unaffected by the storm. He sat by the fire, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling intensity, as if he was feeding on the fear that permeated the air. He spoke of the old-timers, the men who had vanished into the blizzard years ago, their bodies never found. He spoke of the creatures that roamed the wilderness, the Wendigo, the Yeti, creatures of myth and legend that were said to stalk the frozen wastes. His stories, chilling and unsettling, only served to heighten our anxiety. The cabin, once a place of refuge, now seemed to be a cage, trapping us within its confines, at the mercy of the howling wind and the unseen forces that lurked beyond its walls. As the night wore on, the blizzard showed no signs of abating. The wind howled louder, the snow piled higher, and the temperature plummeted. The fire, our only source of warmth, began to dwindle, casting long, eerie shadows that danced and writhed on the walls. Then we heard it, a sound, a low, guttural growl, emanating from the depths of the blizzard. It was a sound that sent shivers down our spines, a sound that spoke of something ancient, something malevolent. We exchanged terrified glances. The fear, which had been simmering beneath the surface, now boiled over. We were not alone. Something was out there, something watching us, something that was drawn to our fear, our desperation. The next morning, we awoke to a scene of utter desolation. The blizzard had raged through the night, burying the cabin in a deep blanket of snow. The trees outside were laden with thick layers of ice, their branches heavy and lifeless. We emerged from the cabin, our breath misting in the frigid air. The world around us was transformed, a desolate landscape of snow and ice, a world where life seemed to have ceased to exist. As we ventured out, clearing a path through the snow, we noticed something strange. The footprints of a large animal, unlike anything we had ever seen before, crisscrossed the snow, leading away from the cabin and disappearing into the swirling snow. A wave of unease washed over us. What kind of creature could leave such massive tracks? It was larger than any bear we had ever encountered, more powerful, more terrifying. We continued our journey, our eyes constantly scanning the snow-covered landscape for any sign of danger. The silence was deafening, broken only by the howling wind and the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. Suddenly, Liam froze, his eyes wide with terror. "Did you hear that?" he whispered, his voice trembling. We strained our ears, listening intently. A sound, a low, guttural growl, echoed through the stillness. It was a sound that sent shivers down our spines, a sound that spoke of ancient evil, of a predator stalking its prey. We turned to run, but it was too late. The creature emerged from the swirling snow, a towering figure shrouded in a ghostly white mist. Its eyes, glowing red in the dim light, fixed on us with a chilling intensity. Panic erupted. We scattered, each of us fleeing in a different direction, the creature in hot pursuit. I could hear its heavy footsteps pounding through the snow, its growls echoing through the frozen wilderness. I stumbled through the deep snow, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The creature was gaining on me, its movements swift and silent. I could feel its icy breath on my neck, its presence a chilling shadow that clung to me like a shroud. Terror, cold and paralyzing, gripped me. I knew that if I was caught, I would not survive. This was no ordinary predator. It was something ancient, something evil, something that had been awakened from its slumber by the blizzard. I burst through the door, gasping for breath, the frigid air stinging my lungs. I slammed the door shut behind me, the sound echoing through the small cabin. Jake and Liam, huddled together by the dying embers of the fire, looked up in surprise. Their faces were pale and drawn, their eyes wide with terror. "It's out there," I gasped, my voice trembling. "It's still out there." Liam's face went white. "What is?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. "The creature," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's hunting us." Jake, his face pale and drawn, stammered, "We have to get out of here. We can't stay here and wait for it to find us." I nodded, my heart pounding against my ribs. We had to get out of the cabin, but where could we go? The blizzard raged outside, the wind howling like a banshee, the snow piling higher with each passing moment. We huddled together, our breath misting in the frigid air, discussing our options. We couldn't stay in the cabin, but venturing out into the blizzard would be a death sentence. Silas, who had remained eerily calm throughout the ordeal, spoke. "There's a cave," he said, his voice low and gravelly. "A hidden cave, not far from here. It's our only chance." We looked at him skeptically. "A cave?" Jake scoffed. What if the creature is already there? Silas shrugged. It's better than staying here and waiting to be devoured. We had no other choice. With trepidation, we ventured out into the blizzard, following Silas through the swirling snow. The wind howled around us, threatening to tear us apart, but we pressed on, driven by a primal fear of the unseen predator. The cave, when we finally found it, was a narrow opening in the rock face, barely large enough for us to squeeze through. We crawled inside, the cold air chilling us to the bone. The cave was dark and damp, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying leaves. We stumbled through the darkness, our hands outstretched, our senses on high alert. Suddenly, we heard it, a low, guttural growl, echoing through the depths of the cave. The sound sent shivers down our spines. The creature was following us. We pressed on, deeper and deeper into the cave, our hearts pounding against our ribs. The air grew colder, the darkness more profound. We could feel the creature's presence, a chilling shadow that clung to us like a shroud. Finally, we reached a small cavern, a natural chamber in the rock face. We huddled together, our backs pressed against the cold stone wall, our eyes wide with terror. The creature, sensing our fear, let out a blood-curdling roar that echoed through the cavern. We cowered in fear, our breath catching in our throats. We were trapped, cornered, at the mercy of this ancient, malevolent force. We remained silent, holding our breath, listening intently for any sound. The creature paced outside the cavern, its movements slow and deliberate. We could hear the scrape of its claws against the rock, the heavy thud of its footsteps as it circled the entrance. Fear, cold and paralyzing, gripped us. We knew that we couldn't stay in the cave forever. The creature would eventually find us, and when it did, there would be no escape. Silas, his face pale and drawn, whispered, "There's another way out, a back entrance. I found it earlier." Hope surged through me. "Show us," I whispered, my voice trembling. Silas, his eyes gleaming with a strange light, led us deeper into the cave. The air grew colder, the darkness more profound. We stumbled through narrow passages, our hands outstretched, feeling our way through the darkness. As we ventured deeper into the cave, the air grew heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay. We passed through chambers filled with strange formations, stalactites and stalagmites that seemed to writhe and twist in the darkness. We heard the creature again, its growls echoing through the cavern, growing louder, more menacing. It was following us, its presence a palpable force, a shadow that clung to us like a shroud. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, we reached another opening, a narrow passage that led upward. We scrambled through the opening, our hands and knees scraping against the rough rock. As we emerged from the cave, we were met with a blast of frigid air. We stumbled out into the open, gasping for breath, our eyes adjusting to the blinding snow. We looked back at the cave entrance, our hearts pounding. The creature remained inside, its growls echoing through the darkness, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurked beneath the surface. We turned and ran, our legs burning, our lungs screaming for air. We didn't stop running until we reached the edge of the forest, collapsing in exhaustion on the snow-covered ground. We looked back at the cave, a sense of dread washing over us. The creature was still there, its eyes burning with a malevolent light, watching us, waiting. We knew that we had escaped, but the creature would not let us go easily. It would hunt us, relentlessly, until it claimed its prey. We spent the rest of the day huddled together for warmth, our fear a palpable presence between us. We knew that the creature would be searching for us, that it would not rest until it had claimed its victims. As the sun began to set, casting long, eerie shadows across the snow-covered landscape, we decided to make a run for it. We would try to reach the nearest town, a small settlement some 30 miles away. We set off, moving cautiously through the snow-covered forest, our eyes constantly scanning the surroundings for any sign of danger. The silence was deafening, broken only by the howling wind and the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. We traveled through the night, our bodies aching, our spirits broken. The cold gnawed at our bones, penetrating our very core. We stumbled through the snow, our feet heavy, our movements sluggish. As the first rays of dawn pierced the darkness, we saw it. A figure, tall and gaunt, emerged from the swirling snow, its eyes glowing red in the dim light. It was the creature. Terror gripped us. We turned and ran, our legs burning, our lungs screaming for air. The creature pursued us, its movements swift and silent, its growls echoing through the frozen wilderness. We ran for our lives, our hearts pounding against our ribs. We stumbled through the snow, our bodies aching, our spirits broken. The creature was gaining on us, its movements relentless, its eyes fixed on us with a chilling intensity. We knew we couldn't outrun it for long. The creature was stronger, faster, more powerful than we could ever imagine. We were mere mortals, prey for a creature of the night. We reached the edge of the forest, the town of Willow Creek shimmering in the distance. We could see the lights twinkling, a beacon of hope in the desolate landscape. But the creature was gaining on us. I could feel its icy breath on my neck, its presence a chilling shadow that clung to me like a shroud. Desperation fueled our escape. We stumbled through the snow, our legs burning, our lungs screaming for air. We were close, so close to safety. But then disaster struck. Liam, his strength failing, stumbled and fell into a deep ravine. He cried out in pain, his voice echoing through the stillness. We stopped, our hearts pounding. We couldn't leave him behind. We had to help him. We cautiously approached the edge of the ravine. Liam lay at the bottom, his leg twisted at an unnatural angle. He looked up at us, his face pale and drawn. "Don't come down," he gasped, his voice weak. "It's too dangerous." But we couldn't leave him there. We had to help him. We lowered a rope down to him, our hearts pounding with fear. As we pulled him up, we heard a sound, a low growl, emanating from the depths of the ravine. The creature, it was waiting for us, lurking in the shadows, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. We scrambled to our feet, our hearts pounding like war drums. We had to get out of there, and fast. We turned and ran, our legs burning, our lungs screaming for air. We didn't look back, afraid of what we might see. We ran until our lungs burned, our legs felt like lead. Finally, we collapsed in a heap, our bodies trembling with exhaustion and fear. We lay there for a long time, gasping for breath, listening for the sound of the creature. But there was only silence. We looked at each other, our faces pale and drawn. We had escaped, but at what cost? Liam was badly injured, and we were still deep in the wilderness, miles from help. As we lay there, shivering in the cold, a chilling realization dawned on us. We had escaped the creature, but we had not escaped the terror. The creature, whatever it was, had left its mark on us, a mark that would forever haunt our souls. We spent the rest of the day huddled together for warmth, our fear a palpable presence between us. Liam's leg was badly injured, and we had no way to treat it. The cold was biting, seeping into our bones, and the fear of the creature was a constant, gnawing presence. As the sun began to set, casting long, eerie shadows across the snow-covered landscape, we knew we couldn't stay where we were. We had to find shelter, find help. We stumbled through the snow, our movements slow and deliberate. We were weak, exhausted, and terrified. The memory of the creature, its eyes glowing red in the darkness, haunted us. We reached a small, abandoned cabin, a dilapidated structure that seemed to emerge from the swirling snow. It offered a glimmer of hope, a temporary refuge from the biting cold and the unseen threat. We cautiously approached the cabin, our eyes scanning the surrounding area for any sign of danger. The silence was deafening, broken only by the howling wind and the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. As we drew closer, we noticed strange symbols carved into the wooden doorframe, symbols that seemed to writhe and twist in the fading light. A wave of unease washed over us. These were not ordinary symbols. They were ancient, otherworldly, and they spoke of a darkness that lurked within. We hesitated, our fear growing. But the cold was biting, and we had no other choice. We pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. The interior of the cabin was dark and damp, the air thick with the smell of dust and decay. Cobwebs clung to the walls, and a layer of grime covered the furniture. We moved cautiously through the cabin, our eyes searching for any sign of danger. As we explored, we discovered a hidden compartment behind a loose floorboard. Inside, we found a collection of strange artifacts, ancient tools, and a book filled with cryptic symbols and chilling warnings. The book spoke of the creatures that inhabited the wilderness, of their origins, their powers, and their insatiable hunger. It spoke of sacrifices, of the blood that had been spilled to appease them, of the souls that had been claimed by the darkness. As we read the chilling accounts, a chilling realization dawned on us. The creatures were not mere beasts. They were something more, something ancient, something malevolent. They were guardians of this desolate land, and we had disturbed their slumber. As we delved deeper into the book, we began to understand the true nature of the danger that confronted us. The creatures were not just predators. They were manifestations of the darkness, born from the cold, the isolation, the despair of this unforgiving wilderness. We learned that this region, this desolate corner of the world, was a place of ancient power, a place where the veil between worlds was thin. The creatures, drawn to this place of power, had been awakened from their slumber, their hunger insatiable. We realized that we were not just prey. We were conduits, unwitting participants in a ritual, a sacrifice to the ancient forces that lurked within this desolate land. As we read further, we discovered that the only way to survive was to confront the darkness, to face our fears and embrace the power that lay dormant within ourselves. The book spoke of an ancient ritual, a way to harness the power of the wilderness, to turn the tables on the creatures that hunted us. It was a dangerous ritual, a gamble with our very souls, but it was our only hope. We spent the rest of the night preparing for the ritual, our fear tempered by a desperate hope. We gathered the necessary materials, following the instructions in the book with trembling hands. As the first rays of dawn pierced the darkness, we began the ritual. We chanted ancient incantations, their voices echoing through the cabin, their meaning lost to time. We felt a strange energy, a power surging through us, a connection to something ancient, something primal. The creature, sensing our defiance, let out a blood-curdling roar that shook the very foundations of the cabin. It was a sound of rage, of frustration, of a predator denied its prey. But we continued with the ritual, our voices growing stronger, our resolve unwavering. We called upon the power of the wilderness, the power of the ancient spirits, to aid us in our struggle. As the ritual reached its climax, a blinding light erupted from the center of the cabin, filling the room with an ethereal glow. The creature outside let out a terrifying shriek, its power waning, its grip on us weakening. The light subsided, leaving us bathed in an eerie silence. The creature, its power diminished, retreated into the shadows, its growls fading into the distance. We had survived. We had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. We emerged from the cabin, the sun shining brightly in the sky. We were weak, exhausted, but alive. We had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, but the experience had changed us forever. We returned to town, our bodies bearing the scars of our ordeal. We told our story, but no one believed us. They dismissed our tale as the ramblings of men driven mad by the cold, by the isolation of the wilderness. But we knew the truth. We had faced the creatures of the night, the ancient beings that lurked in the shadows. We had witnessed the horrors that lurked beneath the surface of the world, the darkness that clung to the edges of human perception. We tried to forget our ordeal, to move on with our lives. But the memories, the fear, the whispers of the creature continued to haunt us. We learned to live with the fear, the knowledge that the darkness was always there, lurking just beyond the edge of human perception. We learned to respect the wilderness, to tread lightly, to disturb its slumber as little as possible. We never returned to that part of the wilderness, never ventured near that desolate cabin. We carried the scars of our encounter with us, a constant reminder of the horrors that lurked in the shadows, of the ancient evils that slumbered beneath the frozen surface of the world. And as the years passed, we watched as the world around us changed. The wilderness encroached upon, the ancient forests felled. We watched as humans, in their insatiable greed, disturbed the slumber of the ancient ones, awakening forces that they could not control. We warned them, but our voices were ignored. They scoffed at our tales, dismissing them as mere superstitions. But we knew the truth. We had seen the darkness, felt its icy grip, and we knew that it would not be long before the creatures of the night would rise again, seeking vengeance for the desecration of their domain. And as the world slept, oblivious to the impending doom, we watched, waiting, for the day when the darkness would consume them all.